Hello, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoy real, heartbreaking cheating stories from Reddit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. This is a story that's been haunting me ever since I read it. A story about betrayal wrapped in familiarity and how the past has a cruel way of resurfacing when you least expect it. Her name is Marissa. She's 31, living in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Sacramento, California. She's 8 weeks pregnant, though the man who put a child in her doesn't even know it yet. That's because Marissa has been carrying a different kind of weight first, a truth so painful it left her numb. 3 weeks ago, she found out her husband, Nathan, 33, was cheating on her, and not just with anyone, but with the woman who made her teenage years hell, her middle and high school bully, someone named Talia. Growing up in a small coastal town, Marissa remembers how cruel Talia had been, the insults, the public humiliation, the way Talia would turn everyone against her with a single whisper. After graduation, Marissa escaped. She clawed her way into a better life, worked long shifts, rented a one-bedroom in the city, bought her own used car, and eventually enrolled in college. It was there, in that fragile pocket of peace, where she met Nathan. He was warm, steady, and kind in a way she hadn't known before. They married 2 years ago. She never told him about Talia, not her name, not the pain, not the nightmares that still clung to her when she'd wake up in a sweat. Why bring up something so dark when she'd finally found the light? Then, one night, everything fell apart. Nathan had fallen asleep early. His phone was resting on the nightstand, screen up. When it lit up with a messenger notification, Marissa felt her heart jump. Nathan hadn't used Facebook in years. She thought it was strange. Innocent, maybe, but still strange. Out of habit more than suspicion, she picked up the phone. They knew each other's passcodes. It was never a thing. And then she saw it. The name, the face, the message. I miss your DIK. Marissa froze. Her fingers went numb. She scrolled back, hoping, desperately hoping that it was some kind of prank or mistake or even spam. But it wasn't. It was her, Talia. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. There were hundreds of messages stretching back months. Graphic messages, pictures, videos, the kind of content that makes your stomach churn and your heart break at the same time. She put the phone down without a word, crawled back into bed beside him like nothing had changed, but everything had. In the days that followed, she became someone else, quiet, cold, calculating. She waited for Nathan to fall asleep, to go for his runs, to lose himself in video games. And then she'd reinstall Messenger, retrieve what she could before he deleted it again. And what she found broke her over and over. The affair had started about 6 months ago, at least that's as far back as the messages went. They'd been sleeping together for 4. Talia had been the one doing most of the talking, most of the asking. Always about Marissa, her life, her habits, her sex life. Is she vanilla? Do you miss me? Do you think about me when you're with her? Nathan never defended her, not once. At best, he deflected. At worst, he answered. It's different. Don't ask me that. Sometimes he got annoyed and ignored Talia for days. But he never told her to stop, never told her no, and that, Marissa says, hurt more than anything. She never cried like this before, not even when her father died. This was different. This grief didn't come in waves. It sat on her chest like stone. And yet, she hasn't confronted him. She doesn't want to. Because to confront him is to give both Nathan and Talia the satisfaction of knowing they broke her. She doesn't want to let them see her cry, She wants to walk away with her head high, to leave and say only one thing: I'm not happy and I don't love you anymore. Technically, it wouldn't be a lie. He's not the man she fell in love with. And this marriage, this lie she's been sleeping beside, it doesn't make her happy anymore. She told her mother she wanted to leave, that she didn't love Nathan and didn't want to be married to him anymore. Her mother flipped, called it reckless, accused her of cheating, and she knew then that if she left quietly, she'd be the villain. But maybe that's easier than being the victim again. Because if she had to choose, she'd rather be the one blamed than the one left bleeding. I keep replaying it in my head, what it would feel like if they knew they'd broken me, if they saw me fall apart and weep, if they smiled at that, watched me suffer, relished it. I can't let that happen. And maybe it is irrational. Maybe I'm acting out of pride, out of fear, out of something darker. But please, try putting yourself in my shoes. Try imagining what it's like to be betrayed, not just by your husband, but by a ghost from your past who already stole your peace once before. Someone who found her way back into your life, into your bed, through the man you trusted most. What would you do if you were me? Part of me wants the world to know what Nathan did, what they did. Not out of spite, at least not only out of spite, but because silence feels like surrender, and I've done enough of that for a lifetime. I've read the comments, the advice, the support from strangers who understand more than I expected. Some say I'm taking the wrong approach, that I'm giving up too much power by walking away quietly, and maybe they're right. One message in particular stuck with me. It said I shouldn't protect a cheater's reputation, that staying silent only isolates me when I need people most, that if I don't speak up, the people around me won't even know I need help. I think they're right. And then there's the part of it that makes me feel sick all over again. The idea that Talia didn't just fall into this affair with Nathan. What if she sought him out? What if she knew he was mine and chose him because of that? As if ruining my peace once in high school wasn't enough. She had to reach into my marriage and twist the knife. The more I think about it, the more it feels intentional, cruel, targeted. Someone else pointed out something I hadn't considered. That exposing the affair could make a difference. Not just emotionally, but legally. That it could change the way a judge sees things in court. That it could matter in terms of custody, child support, or even alimony. If I leave without saying why, I risk looking like I gave up for no reason. That terrified me. Not because I want revenge, but because I want to protect my future, my child's future. That same person said, "Get screenshots, all of them, before anything else." And I will. Another message that stuck with me read, "Don't keep the secrets of a cheater." It shook something loose in me, because that's what I've been doing, carrying this shame for Nathan, shielding his betrayal so no one would see how bad it was. But the more I protect him, the more I abandon myself. I'm not a victim, not anymore. I've already made the hardest choice, to leave. That was step one. The next step is making sure they don't get to write the ending. A stranger said, "You're not just taking it, you're fighting back." And I want that to be true. Others asked hard questions I hadn't dared say out loud. Do you really want your childhood bully to become your kid's stepmom? God, the thought of that makes my stomach turn. Because if I leave without telling anyone the truth, that's exactly how this could play out. People will support them. People might even praise them. Maybe she'll spin it as healing from the past or finding love in a dark time. Maybe they'll say I couldn't handle marriage or that I left for no reason. Maybe they'll make her the sympathetic one, and I'll be the villain in my own story. I'm not that scared little girl in 8th grade anymore. the one who hid in bathroom stalls and cried until the bell rang. That girl is gone. I owe it to her to stand up now. One former victim wrote to me, "Take back the narrative. You have the power. Use it." I will. Others told me to screenshot the messages, email them to myself, make copies. Don't let them rewrite the truth, and I won't. Then came the hardest advice. One woman asked if I truly wanted to raise a child tied to this man for the rest of my life. She reminded me, gently, that it was still early, that I had choices. And I do. I've chosen this baby already, but that doesn't mean I'm stuck in this marriage. It just means I have something even more precious to protect. Another message hit me like a whisper in the dark. Silence protects the cheater, not you. I'm done being silent. And the last message I read made me feel for the first time in weeks like maybe I still had some control. It said, "Bullies get away with it in school, but not always in adulthood. She went after a married man with a pregnant wife. That doesn't make her bold. It makes her pathetic." And Nathan? He has no idea I know. But maybe, just maybe, if I hold my cards right, I'll get him to confess himself, and when I do, I'll be ready to walk away, stronger, not broken. For me. For my child. For the girl I used to be. Some wounds don't bleed. They just sit there, quiet and invisible, but they ache every time you breathe. And staying silent about what Nathan and Talia did, it felt like keeping the wound wide open, letting them own the story, letting them pretend I was just a distant wife who drifted away without reason. But I couldn't do that anymore. I should have updated this sooner. I deleted the account I was using to share all of this, thinking I could just disappear and start fresh. But healing isn't that simple. Closure doesn't come with silence. So here's what I decided. I read every message of support, every hard truth, every reminder that I deserve more than this. Some of them made me cry. Some of them made me angry. But all of them helped me think clearly. I needed that. I was too wrapped in shame to see anything straight. First, about the legal side. Some of you said I needed a lawyer. But honestly, Nathan and I don't have much. Just a joint account for bills and another one where we both freely deposit and withdraw. I've already moved my contributions to my private account. I don't expect a battle over money. It's not about that. This isn't revenge. I'm not trying to ruin his life. I just don't want to give them the satisfaction. I don't want Talia to know she succeeded. I don't want Nathan to see how much it broke me. I want to walk away with some dignity left. I know that may sound foolish, but it's the only way I feel like I have any control. As for the baby, I've already made my choice. I'm pro-choice, always have been, and I chose this child before I even knew I was pregnant. Just because I don't want to be with its father doesn't mean I could ever walk away from it. I'm the daughter of divorced parents. So are my brothers. We turned out fine. My baby will too. And no, the thought of Talia ever being a stepmother is not enough to convince me otherwise. I already love this child more than I've ever loved anything. That won't change. I told Nathan I was leaving. I didn't mention the affair. I just said I wasn't happy, that I didn't love him anymore. I told him I felt too young to spend the rest of my life feeling empty. I'd already spoken with a few close friends. Framing it as an emotional disconnect was enough for them to support me without asking too many questions. One friend, Rachel, offered me her guest room. I broke down sobbing when she said it. I didn't realize how badly I needed someone to say, "You can come with me." That night I packed a bag and left, quietly. Without yelling, without drama. Nathan didn't believe me at first. He asked if I'd done something wrong. I lied again. I told him no, that I was just tired of trying. He said he'd noticed I'd been distant lately, but never imagined it was this. He begged me to talk, to explain, but I didn't owe him that. That was Thursday. Since then, he's been calling every day, sometimes 5 or 6 times. I didn't answer, not once. Until this morning, when he showed up at Rachel's house and asked if we could have breakfast. I said yes. He looked like he hadn't slept, his eyes red, his beard unshaven. I almost felt pity. Almost. Over coffee, I told him I was pregnant, that I was keeping the baby, and that he didn't have to be involved if he didn't want to be. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Didn't say a word. Then, right as I was about to excuse myself, his phone buzzed. Messenger. He hadn't deleted the app. And there it was. Her name. Talia. I looked at him, cold and steady, and said, "Oh, so that's her name. You know, she used to bully me. In high school. Back when we still lived in Arroyo Bay." He froze, his hands stiff, his eyes locked on mine. "I never told you, did I? She was relentless, made me feel worthless. She never apologized, not once." He didn't say anything. Just sat there staring like I'd peeled off a mask he didn't know he was wearing. "She hasn't changed. Be careful." He reached out, touched my arm like he was trying to read my expression, trying to figure out just how much I knew. I let him wonder. "I'm planning to buy a small 1-bedroom apartment. It's all I can afford for now, but it'll be enough until the baby gets older. I'll save, I'll grow, I'll expand when it's time. I'm not leaving Sacramento. This city is mine. My friends are here. My memories. My strength. I filed for a divorce already. He'll probably ask for a grace period or something. I don't care. I'm in no rush. Right now, all I want is to cry, to grieve what I thought I had, to learn how to live without him, and to love the child growing inside me with every part of who I am." Looking back, I think Nathan knew. The moment I said Talia's name, the moment I told him about the bullying, his face didn't register confusion. It registered fear. Not guilt. Fear. Like he suddenly realized the version of me he'd been cheating on wasn't the version of me that would stay silent anymore. And when he grabbed my arm, he wasn't reaching for comfort. He was searching my face, trying to confirm whether the pieces had finally come together in my mind. They had. I just didn't scream it at him. I didn't need to. I walked away, instead. Some people may think I should have done more, should have burned it all down, told everyone, made them pay. But sometimes silence can be louder than rage. Sometimes walking away with your dignity is the only weapon you have left. And maybe it doesn't feel satisfying. Maybe it doesn't feel like justice. But for me, in that moment, it felt like survival. Still, I can't help wondering, what was Talia's goal in all of this? I've thought about that more than I want to admit. Did she know who I was when they started? Did she know she was sleeping with the husband of the girl she used to torment in high school? I think she did. I think she knew from the very beginning. That's what makes it worse. It wasn't just betrayal. It was targeted, a continuation of something that was never resolved. In her messages to Nathan, she kept asking about me, prodding, digging, like I was a curiosity, a ghost she wanted to hold in her hands and crush all over again. She didn't want to know me. She wanted to win, and what better way to do that than to take something from me that was supposed to be safe? But why? Maybe to her, I was still that awkward girl with shaking hands and too quiet shoes. Maybe she never saw me grow. Maybe she never changed either. Maybe this affair wasn't about passion or loneliness. It was about dominance, a power trip, a sick thrill. Maybe it was revenge for something that never even happened. Or maybe I'm just giving her too much credit. Maybe she just doesn't care who she hurts. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. I wonder sometimes if bullies ever think about the damage they cause. Do they remember the faces they laughed at, the people they made feel small? Or is it all just a blur to them? Another day, another name, another life ruined. I used to believe they forgot, that they moved on while we stayed behind, carrying the bruises in silence. But now I'm not so sure, because when Talia reached for Nathan, it felt too pointed to be random. Maybe she remembered everything. Maybe that's why she did it. I know I'm not the only one who's carried this kind of weight. So many of us walk around with invisible scars, shaped not just by betrayal, but by the echoes of the people who first taught us to doubt ourselves. And that's what hurts the most. Nathan gave her the doorway, but she walked through it willingly, and now I have to live in the aftermath, piecing together what remains of my life while trying to build something better for a child who had no say in any of this. I won't pretend I've made peace with it yet, but I've made progress. I've left, I've spoken, I've protected my heart the best way I know how. And that has to count for something. The rest? I don't know. I guess only time will tell. But now I want to share something that happened to someone else, a different story that caught my eye when I needed a reminder that every relationship has its hidden corners. This woman, let's call her Elaine, shared her story online. Her husband, Gavin, had a daughter from a casual college relationship long before they met. He never wanted to be a father and made that clear from the beginning. But the woman he'd been seeing at the time chose to go through with the pregnancy. Gavin supported her financially, but never visited, never called, never even met the child. For 12 years, he remained a shadow on paper, a check in the mailbox. Elaine met Gavin 8 years ago. They've now been married for nearly 7. She knew about the daughter early on, and while it hurt to hear, she respected his honesty and his boundaries. They built a life together and now have a 5-year-old son. Gavin has been, by all accounts, a loving husband and a deeply involved father. He was present through Elaine's pregnancy, stayed up through the sleepless nights, and played the silly games their son begged for. To her, Gavin was a good man, a good father. But not everyone agreed. 2 of Gavin's friends had married women who still kept in touch with the mother of Gavin's daughter. And over time, these women began to make cruel comments, veiled jabs disguised as casual remarks. One of them, at a child's birthday party, even said, "If only the mother of his other kid had it that good." Elaine was stunned, embarrassed, furious. She confronted one of them, only to be told that praising Gavin was offensive, that it was wrong to paint him as a good father when he'd abandoned a child, that they would always remind her of what he'd done. Elaine left that party in silence. But later that night, she asked herself, was she wrong to speak the truth of her own experience, even if it wasn't the whole truth? She doesn't know the answer yet, but she knows what love looks like in her home, and that's the only truth she can hold on to. Should I stop calling Nathan a good father? It's a question I keep circling back to, especially now that everything's changed. Even in the wake of what he's done, what they've done, I can't deny that he was present, supportive, kind even. To me, to the baby growing inside me. But those things live side by side now with betrayal, and every memory feels tainted. Still, I know how he was during the months before this shattered. How gently he held me when I got sick in the mornings. How he rubbed my back when I couldn't sleep. That version of him existed too. And for a while, I thought I'd seen the best of him. But now, I don't know what's real anymore. I stumbled across a post recently. Another woman trying to make sense of something just as complicated. Her name was Elaine. Her husband, Gavin, had a daughter from a college relationship. Gavin told Elaine early on. He didn't want to be a father at the time, and he made that clear to the woman he'd been seeing. But she kept the baby. Gavin agreed to pay child support and stay completely uninvolved. No visits, no phone calls, no decisions, nothing. 12 years later, he still hadn't met the girl. Elaine shared this history with the internet not to defend him blindly, but because she was being judged harshly by women in their social circle every time she said Gavin was a good father. They scoffed, insulted her, and said he didn't deserve to be praised when he'd abandoned a child. It didn't matter that he'd been upfront about his boundaries. It didn't matter that he'd fulfilled the financial part of the agreement. All they saw was absence. But Elaine knew a different side of him. She'd seen him kneel next to their son's crib every night, heard him hum lullabies in a voice too soft for anyone else to ever hear. She knew the man who stayed awake through every fever, packed every school lunch, and never once made her feel alone in parenting. She called him a good father because he was, to the child he chose to raise. And a commenter named Lemon B said it best. Was he a good father to that girl? No, but he was good for her. He didn't pretend to be ready when he wasn't. He supported her from a distance instead of messing her up by trying and failing. That's maturity too. Another person added, her mother made the choice to be a single parent. That doesn't make her wrong, but it doesn't make him evil either. And it hit me hard. Because the truth is, parenting isn't just about biology or presence. It's also about honesty, readiness, intent. Gavin didn't run away. He just didn't step forward. And maybe the world can't forgive that, but Elaine did. More than that, she understood it. Another comment said something that stayed with me long after I closed the tab. If the woman had chosen an abortion, no one would be standing around at parties 8 years later yelling at her for not being a mother. That stung, because it reminded me how easily we rewrite stories depending on who gets hurt. We forgive silence from one person and crucify it from another. We expect men to show up perfectly or not at all, and even when they try, sometimes it's still not enough. But Elaine's story didn't end there. After she posted, she finally told her husband Gavin what those women had been saying behind his back. And that's when a new truth came to light. One of the husbands, John, was married to Jane, the woman who'd been the harshest critic. Turns out, Jane and John had gone through something heartbreaking in college, an unplanned pregnancy. John didn't want the baby. Jane did. They fought. Then she miscarried. They never told anyone. Jane buried that pain deep, but it never really left her. When Elaine and Gavin's son was born, something shifted in Jane. Maybe it was envy. Maybe it was grief. But she started projecting everything she hadn't said to John onto Gavin, onto Elaine. She wasn't judging from righteousness. She was judging from sorrow. After Gavin and John spoke, John confronted Jane. It didn't go well. He ended up leaving the house for a while, staying in Elaine and Gavin's guest room. Jane hated them for it. The friendship between the two families was suddenly hanging by a thread. But something good came out of it too. John reached out to the mother of Gavin's daughter, Callie, and explained everything. He told her about Jane's unresolved pain and how it was bleeding into other people's lives. He asked her not to let that resentment poison things further. And for the first time ever, Callie reached out to Elaine. Elaine was stunned. She'd never spoken to Callie before, never even exchanged a word. But Callie messaged her saying she wanted to talk, mother to mother. And it started there. One small message that broke years of silence. One moment of grace. I think about that a lot lately. How much can begin with one truth spoken aloud, and how much healing we deny ourselves by staying quiet. I wonder if someday I'll be strong enough to talk to Talia, not to forgive her, but to close the door for good. Maybe that day will come, but not yet. Callie's first message was cautious. She said she wanted to speak to me, mother to mother, and clear the air. I hesitated at first. After everything, I didn't know what to expect. But I replied, and I'm glad I did. We talked, slowly, carefully. She let me know she wanted nothing beyond what she and Nathan had originally agreed to. She never encouraged Jane's anger. She never passed along information about us. In fact, they rarely spoke. She didn't want any part of the drama, and definitely didn't want her daughter Ellie caught in it. I told her I appreciated her reaching out. We suspected she wasn't involved, but hearing it directly from her helped. I apologized for the disturbance, for being dragged into something that had nothing to do with her or her family. And somehow, from that awkward start, we found something like understanding. She was kind, calm, even warm. She told me about her husband, Sal. He'd been there since Ellie was 2. She calls him Dad. They also have a younger daughter together, a full little family, stitched together by love and timing. Callie said she knew Nathan had remarried and had a child with me. Jane had told her, even though she asked not to hear about him. She didn't want to dwell on a man who chose not to be present. But now, with everything coming to light, things changed. Nathan and I had been talking. We updated each other about what came up in our chats with Callie. Eventually, after much back and forth, we agreed to have a video call with them. Just the 4 of us, Nathan, me, Callie, and Sal. It was uncomfortable at first. 4 strangers bound together by a child and years of silence. But as the conversation turned to Ellie, that discomfort softened. We saw pictures. She's beautiful, smiling, bright-eyed, full of life. Callie and Sal told us they had been considering a formal adoption. Sal wanted to adopt Ellie, she wanted that too, but they were worried about losing the financial support Nathan had been providing. They weren't wealthy, just hard-working parents trying to build a future for 2 daughters. Losing child support plus access to Ellie's college fund would put them in a difficult place. That was the real obstacle. So, together, we found a solution. Nathan would formally acknowledge paternity, and Sal would move forward with the adoption. Ellie would keep the college trust fund. We agreed that how and when to tell her the details would be Callie and Sal's decision. So far, Ellie only knows that her biological father supports her from a distance. It'll take time to finalize everything. It's only the beginning, and we still don't know how or when to introduce our children to each other. That's a bridge we'll cross slowly and carefully. But right now, all of us feel something close to peace. Nathan said, "This is how it should have been all along." Callie and Sal seemed relieved, maybe even happy. There was one quiet moment that stayed with me. Near the end of our call, Sal looked at Nathan and said, "You have a lovely family." Nathan replied softly, "So do you." And somehow, in that simple exchange, something old let go of its grip. This story, like so many others, is a quiet reminder of how complex relationships can become when wounds are left to fester in silence. Whether it's unresolved trauma from a past relationship, betrayal in a current one, or the weight of unspoken resentment, we carry things longer than we need to when we don't speak up. If you find yourself in a toxic or painful relationship, listen to your instincts. Denial only delays the heartbreak. Silence can feel like protection, but it often isolates you from the support you deserve. Don't be afraid to seek help, whether that's from trusted friends, a therapist, or legal counsel. And never underestimate the power of documentation. If something feels wrong, keep records, save messages, protect your truth. Above all, remember this: healing doesn't always look like revenge or confrontation. Sometimes it's just choosing peace, choosing yourself, choosing the future you want for your child, even if that means walking away from the person who helped create them. You are not weak for being hurt, and you are not broken for needing time, but you are strong for surviving it, and braver still for building something better in its place.